To tie it back into what we were talking about, that there is an ancient wisdom and a knowledge there for us, but it's been pasted over so much, and now people are becoming these, I hate to say it, but they're almost like half people. You know, they're not really there. And, you know, we are in a war of sorts, and I suppose we just have to keep putting the information out there and inspiring people to just find themselves and just snap out of it.
Yeah, you're right. Well said. They've become a victim of the sludge culture, which has been boil the frog. It's been foisted on them over time through these idiot sitcoms, which have given them all the memes to which they're obsessively glued, you see. So the Neighbours and Brookside and Coronation Street and Emmerdale and EastEnders and all that shash. And they bloody followed it because, you know, you've been denuded spiritually. You know, libraries are closing. As I say, sages are pilloried. False leaders and demagoguery. As I said, we get into lockstep behind the demagogue because there's all sorts of other big daddy psychology, power struggle psychology involved. And I've gone into that in my Dragon Mother thesis, you know, about why this destabilization takes place, when it takes place, and what are the consequences of it. And a great deal of it has to do with, you know, our dislike of getting older, you know, our dislike of entering into the solar world where it demands us to be inventive and to use our reason. And Big Brother, the nanny state, the Fabian socialists, as you say, they have made it that you don't need to. You can remain on an infantile level. Big Daddy, Big Nanny will take care of you. It's communism light, as you correctly noted. And so it's not the Bolshevik type of hard boot in the face communism. The Fabians always warned the Bolshevik leaders that wouldn't work, and they were right. This is the Marcusean aspect. This is the Fabian version, right? Socialism with a smile. That they realize that affluence will be the biggest leash. Not the boot in the face like they tried in the iron, you know, behind the Iron Curtain countries. That didn't work. That just in the end ended up the people threw them over. Well, they don't want that now. They don't want to be thrown over, and they're not going to be thrown over because they've offered you affluence. The very things that after suppressing cultures for centuries economically, they now give you, you know, smartphones and big screen TVs, and tomorrow it'll be cars that drive themselves or whatever else, you know, headsets where you never have to leave the virtual reality world, and on it goes. In other words, it's all escapes from selfhood, escapes from listening to the voice of my own emotions, listening to the dark voices within my own head, you see, with more happy pills. So we've been talking here the majority of the time about ancient history. As I've said at other times, my interest in ancient history is spawned by a deep, abiding interest in what's happening right now. So it's not like a normal person who'd say, I love history. I'm interested in all the dynamics we see today. Be it in terms of gender, be it in terms of politics, be it in terms of religion and race, right? The kernel was what I learned on the streets of Belfast, but my God, look where it's gone. But it all boils down to the fact that unless you understand ancient trauma, you can't understand how the cowboy and the sheepdog, you know, whip that herd of cows and steer. It steers the steers. It steers them in a certain direction with a single crack of the whip. How is that possible? So then it's the Orwellian control, right? Which is far more sophisticated than the old Bolshevik, you know, regimented thing. That was one incarnation of it. They realized their mistake. And so they set up the institutes like the Frankfurt School, you know, and they had many dissenters as well. There's certain great thinkers there who didn't go along with the gig and truly were more humanitarian. But the core of it said, hey, we've got to co-opt this feeling of ancient trauma. And that means we've got to have wars and rumors of wars. Perpetual headlines of disaster and chaos, even when there isn't going to be any. And we have to have the, you know, as Albert Pike said, unleash the nihilists. What he meant was unleash the headlines. Trade unions on strike again. War in the Gulf. Tsunamis. Atomic blasts in Fukushima. And all the crime in our streets, right? The feral kids, the economic frauds, internet insecurity. And we just say, have you got a key and a lock? And you got a little safe space for me called my life, called Western. That's Western culture now. Just locking myself in. I don't want to know. So it's like one of these Charles Bronson apocalyptic films where the fucking crimos are just hopping the fences and running over the walls, burning the city. And while everybody just sits inside and turns up the TV as loud as they can get it. Cowardly, docile, fat, weak, right? Inebriated by coke and sugar and cigarettes and booze and happy pills, anything to suppress the natural intelligence. That's the chaos. Where's the heroism in that? It doesn't exist in the West. And so absolutely, we will now want to pattern ourselves on some Middle Eastern, semi-savage pattern right out of the past. And if it wasn't that, it'd be something else. Because the roots of our own culture have been so utterly torn up. But I believe, you see, that you must study that process, because there's a tremendous spiritual reasons for doing so, because it is, after all, evil. And no person can say they're good unless they know the nature of evil. There's no other equation. You can't break that equation. Any other pretensions towards goodness is just nonsense. Real ethics, real morality, as Immanuel Kant and other people said, you've got to know 100% what are the origins of it. And one of the origins of morality is freedom. All right, now we're talking about freedom. What is that? Well, that's the hallmark of the Creator. The Creator gave you the essence of what He is, which is the freedom to do evil, the freedom to do good. But I'm giving you the complete freedom, because there's no coercion involved in a true spiritual connection with the source. So the essence of why you're moral, right, is because you've been given a gift of gifts, the very thing that Spirit has as its essence, which is freedom. Now you can do freedom to create, freedom to fight pathogens, you see, to be immune, or no, just sit on the couch, turn on the TV and drift off into some delta waves, passively accepting the flow of history, the flow of politics, the flow of what, the Labour Party or the Conservative Party or the Pope or whoever, points in the direction of. You just go along with that. That's fine. I have no problem. I'm not going to fight that.
The sad thing about it is that people are, and for those of us who understand how the control system works and understand how the occultists, the puppeteers, how they work, is that they like to get people to mess themselves up using their own free will. So it's beyond, like you say, the old boot in the face type of communism or oppression, where it's machine guns running in with the machine guns. Now it's a different tactic. They condition people to not want to be free and to actually convince them, that they should enjoy the prison cell. So they, it's a whole new way of doing it. It's actually quite very effective.
Yeah, they've triggered in. They've bought into the idea that we want freedom from freedom, and we really do want that. So then they say, well, let's provide it. Now, what this does, of course, is it says, okay, that doesn't exonerate these leaders for doing what they're doing. But as I've said from day one, what is the slave doing to reciprocate? What role is he playing in the master-slave dynamic? Oh, that's it. That's it. You're hinterlanded. You are immediately given a ticket to hinterland. Get out of town by noon. We don't want to see you around here, Michael. That's psychology, mate. That's getting to the root of it. No, I belong to the Occupy movement. I'm an anarchist. I'm fighting back. My guns are hidden, and I'm looking at them, going, "Oh my God, is that what we're talking about?" And America specifically is one of the most anti-psychological places on earth, but unfortunately everywhere's followed it. It used to be traditionally a very anti-psychological place. They've tried and every single other fix, but it never strays far from, say, a sort of quasi-religious or a political, sort of strategy. There's just an absolute resistance, cognitive dissonance against psychology. And unfortunately that now has gone across the board. And if we're not very careful, even the most generic 101 level of Freudianism, Jungianism, I don't know what ism, in a psychological sense, is going to be completely forgotten or totally misconstrued. It's already being misconstrued. Some of even the most basic primitive stuff of what these men talked about. I had to do a whole series on Otto Rank, and of course, and even on Thomas Szasz and these people. And it's very much spiced with a lot of the Freudian stuff to bring it back, to say this is very valuable information. It has a lot of appeal, and we can't afford this to fall through the cracks. Because losing these great tools of decipherment and self-analysis is exactly what Big Brother wants. And so, my work is very heavily psychological and philosophical for that reason, is because we can't afford to lose these tools. Then we've really lost something valuable in the West. Psychology is so valuable. It's far more valuable than religion, or politics. And so when I see a lot of people running around well-meaning in these different, parties, be they on the right or whatever, but I can see that they're painfully collectivistic and painfully anti-psychological. How can you have faith in any of that, you see? But again, I don't go and force it down their throats. I present the work there and these different articles and websites, and it's up for those people to come along. But when you've understood fundamentally that the vast majority of people want freedom from freedom, now you understand why an architecture of total tyranny of the Orwellian brand, it exists today and is likely to stand forever.